Vince, thanks for coming back on. I think timing is everything, and I'm glad that we're able to speak, especially with everything that's happening right now. And I know that I'm going to turn it over to you because there's things that specifically you wanted to talk about today, and we'll kick it off with some words from you, and then we'll go.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me back. I mean, we're here to talk about the economy and metals, but uh, you know, I make it my business to stay out of politics because it doesn't really do anything for me. I'm interested in policy, not the people in the politics. And but your audience is very politically savvy, and there's healthy discussion between, say, MAGA and libertarian type of concepts. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to do some of that because it's about the policy and give people something to chew on to discuss because I think we can add a little bit of value to this conversation about is Trump being a Republican or not being a Republican? I think that's the issue that I'm starting to see bubble up a lot. I mean, do you want to do that?
Absolutely. So let's start off with what are your thoughts right now on what's going on, and what is the first thing that sticks out in your mind, like from a bullet point standpoint, from a bullet point of where we're at and what's happening, like what's either
Okay.
bothering you or making you feel good or whatnot.
No, no, nothing's bothering me. But I think there was an event that has kind of made MAGA people a little bit disillusioned, and libertarians, fully disillusioned. And the event was when Doge failed, not for lack of trying. The courts are not going to let that shit go down. When Doge failed and he couldn't reduce cost, he figured I have to go in and spend to get out of this mess. And that's a valid economic thing. Look, I'm a small L libertarian to all your listeners, okay? So I'm a New York Republican. We'll get into that. But so when he did the one big beautiful bill, that was the moment. That was the pivot from save, reduce so I could finance the spending to screw it, let's go all in, balls to the walls and spend. And it's really causing some confusion. Or the libertarians are like, see, I told you he's not really Republican. And the MAGA people are like, I think the MAGA people are they still believe in him, as do I. We'll get into that in a second. But they are having a hard time squaring the round peg that they have into the square peg in the round hole type of thing. And I think I'd like to throw something out there as a person who's familiar with Donald Trump. I mean, not personally, but I'm familiar with him. So that's where all the fighting started, I think. I think there's fighting now. So can we start there?
Yeah.
Right. So this is about Donald Trump. Okay. There's a lot of debate in Republican circles. It's growing about Donald Trump. Some say he's a big government spender, right? Some say he's not really conservative. Libertarians and non-libertarians are split over where he stands, right? So to figure it out, you have to look at where he comes from. Okay. We're going to really get into this for like 5, maybe 10 minutes, and it's going to make a lot more sense of what makes the man tick. He's a New York Republican, but he's a real estate person. Now, as opposed to a finance person, I was a New York finance person. New York Republicans had a word for New York real estate people. We call them Democrats. Okay? Why? It's key to understand this. Kidding aside, they were about New York real estate people, not necessarily Trump, but it is Trump. New York real estate people are Republicans, but they were about low taxes, which is Republican, and they were also about spending money on real estate subsidies. That's how their business operated. So in business, there are two kinds of Republicans in New York. First, you have the finance crowd, Wall Street types, right? Fiscally conservative, socially liberal, right? We didn't care what you did in your personal life as long as you didn't get in the way of us getting to work to make money. We're not going to give you money to, if you're a minority, but we're going to tolerate your existence. Figure it out. See if you can figure it out. Very, very Darwinistic thing. Now, then you have the real estate crowd, and this is really interesting. Okay. The key difference is real estate developers couldn't afford to be fiscally conservative. Their industry lived on government programs, subsidies, and zoning deals. They always were interacting with the government. They needed government to help their buyers, and they needed to keep the money flowing. So their formula was simple: low taxes as a Republican for them and high spending. Now, Donald Trump was shaped in that world. You know, when Ebbets Field was knocked down in Brooklyn, he put the apartment buildings on there. Low income housing. His father did. That's He made his money in low income housing. Now, outwardly, he could say, "I'm fiscally conservative and socially liberal," like any New Yorker would say, right? Because that's what fit the New York Republican brand. In reality, he's fiscally liberal and socially conservative. Okay, he'll spend money, but he'll spend it on his people. That's the DNA of MAGA, right-wing populism. Now, it sounds unusual. Outside of New York, it's probably unusual. But this mindset isn't unusual in corporate America. This goes back to the Rockefellers and the Mellons. It's the mindset of these corporatists, right? Trump is, and this is a real word, I'm just make this word. Trump is a classic corporatist. Business and government working hand in hand. Over time, he shifted from being a conservative corporatist to a more populist anti-finance operator. Why? Because there's a fundamental difference between industry and finance. See, this is where the split comes in. Real estate is industry. So you got let's say you got your Carnegie, steel manufacturing, steel, railroads, oil, right? Your industry titans. Those were corporatists, industrialists. And his family was one of those too, in the real estate side. And everyone was on the same side of the fence, right? It's tied to regulations, permits, and physical projects. But finance, which came along in the 80s, isn't. And that's part of why Trump doesn't like finance and why finance doesn't like him. How do I say this? Okay, so I guess I should describe what a corporatist is, because there's a divorce that Trump went through with the rest of corporate America, okay? And it has to do with globalism. In the old sense, a corporatist is an industrialist, someone who builds things, and in order of loyalty, a corporatist likes other industrialists first. He hangs out with the other industrialists, right? And then they dislike government, but they'll work with it if they have to. They dislike paying taxes, and they'd rather pay a union employee than pay taxes, because at least they're making something. They keep more of their money. Unions over government. That's the law. They're not pro-union. They're just anti-government. Okay. Now think of the railroad builders. Think Rockefeller. These people hated finance people. A book recommend Titan. That's John Rockefeller's biography. Really good one. They hated finance people. Now this is really going to make sense. They viewed them as rentiers, middlemen who didn't create anything. They just took a cut for themselves. And that's where Trump comes from. And here's where the divorce happens. After the 70s, all the factories closed, moved them overseas. So all the Rockefeller types were now outsourcing.
This episode is brought to you by McIlvaney Financial Group. Their advisors bring a depth of knowledge and experience that allow them to serve their clientele with care, ensuring their financial needs are met now and in the future. Personally, I'm not saying cash is worthless, but you can see what's happening. It's worth less every year. Gold is the opposite. Click on the promo link in the show notes or go to www.mcilvaney.com/coffeeandamike.
Globalism. And they were getting access to other markets because, you buy Caterpillar tractor in another country. But he's a real estate guy. His product is purely domestic. I mean, it isn't anymore. That's because he's changed it. But he can't sell products abroad. All these other companies plugged into the financial globalist network, and finance made a fortune from it. But real estate corporatists didn't get that benefit. You can't build skyscrapers. You couldn't build skyscrapers overseas. You can't outsource apartment buildings. His business stayed here, locked into the U.S. So he tried to adapt, right? Expanded his brand, stakes. But in his view, finance people cut him out. I'm saying this as a New Yorker who studied his mindset. So he cut them out in return. Remember in the 80s, right? That's when he went bankrupt in the 80s. He's like, you know what? I can't afford to pay it. Here's the keys. The building's yours. And they had to bail him out. So he doesn't like them. So he extended himself trying to keep up with the classic, with the industrialists. Remember, he had Trump Airlines. These are all these brands. He was putting his name on other businesses that he just couldn't get because the finance people were tying him down. So now he goes bankrupt in the 80s. The 80s screw him, 87, that time frame. Then came the housing boom. The great financial crisis that we ended up having. All right. Condos, rentals, skyscrapers, and this time the government was on the side of real estate, right? It was an unspoken deal. We're going to help you now. We're going to support you now. We got to take care of people's nest eggs. And the bubble swelled. Trump wrote it. That's why he went from business buildings to condos, co-ops and condos. But when it popped, it hurt. But it wasn't like before. The real break came. This is the divorce now. The real break came during the financial crisis. I call it a divorce. Trump decided he would never, this is my opinion, I have no evidence on this, but he said, I will never work with finance people again because he got screwed. Real estate screwed him again. From then on, it would be his way. Build what he wanted, keep control, and focus on brand. So he's still a corporatist. He believes that if you build something, a factory, a housing development, a golf course now, he builds those overseas, right? You're adding real value to the world, as opposed to a financial globalist middleman who's just taking a toll booth fee. And twice in his career, globalism left him behind. Twice finance came out ahead while real estate took the hit. And that's why he's a spender. I should just pause here. Did you want anything you want to add? Because I got a little bit more to say.
No, no, please.
All right. So that's why so this is where he's spending now. He's not a fucking libertarian. He's a classic corporatist. He's fiscally conservative. And because he tried to cut spending, he couldn't get it cut. Now he's got to go all in, right? Corporates spend. They invest in projects. They hire. They pay employees more. If it helps the business, they will do whatever they can to avoid paying taxes, but they'll spend on building. By the way, what was in the One Big Beautiful Bill? There was a thing in there called the CapEx deduction. I'm not sure how everyone is familiar with it, but what he did was in the bill, he said to corporations that buy machinery, he said, you're going to buy a machine and have a 20-year amortization of it, or deduction. You deduct it for 20 years. They have accelerated reduction now. You can buy an asset like an airplane, Boeing. You buy an airplane, 20 years to deduct it. You can deduct it all in year one. So what does that do? It makes me go out and buy more airplanes, right? That's what a corporatist does. So the CapEx did that. Companies are being told to spend like it's going out of style, and they get to deduct full value in year one instead of 20 years out on the road. So he's betting, and this is where it comes down to his plan works if we get productive. We can't tighten our belt responsibly. No one will stomach it. So we've got to, if we can't reduce expenses, then we have to increase profits. So he's betting that bringing back manufacturing will create enough future profit to offset the inflation it causes today. And if it fails, in his mind, it'll fail because finance got their way again, and they're in his way again. That's it. Trump's not conservative. It's what he's spending on that's different.
As you've spent, a few minutes discussing this, what are your thoughts on him right now with this plan in place?
Oh yeah. I've gone from being seeing everything he was doing as being well orchestrated, meaning Trump's not a strategist. He's a tactician, right? He's got a plan. And the plan is to make America great again. And under that is to bring manufacturing home. And under that is to reduce the debt by growing the economy if he can't reduce the costs. That's the strategy. Everything else is tactics. Horse trading, negotiation, that's his style. And I think, I may be wrong, but I'm a fan of Scott Bessent. And that's changing too. But Scott Bessent, I know, is a finance guy who thinks like a corporatist. So I'm watching him, and it's like he's writing the script, Scott, and going, all right, this is what we have to do. Do it any way you want to. You're the man, right? And so he's going out and negotiating it. So I have seen Trump do things that make me, he's on the path. And for example, the path would be, we got to get people to stop selling bonds. Do you get them to buy bonds? No. You tell them, fine, we're not going to stop you from buying gold. I understand that. But we're America. We have entrepreneurship, innovation. We want you to invest in our companies. So he's getting investment through Saudi Arabia. I don't know if they're going to honor it. The numbers are too big. The numbers are not real. But he's getting countries to do what's called FDI, foreign direct investment. So they're not going to sell their treasuries, at least not as much, and they're going to take the proceeds from what they do sell and put it into U.S. equities. That's the plan, right? That's a damn good plan. We have to do it. We have to do it. Either that or we have to cut expenses. My problem, he's so volatile tactically that I can't tell if he's losing it and trying to change the subject or if he's genuinely trying to throw people off. And so I'm in the dark like everyone else. Like, for example, the tariff thing on gold, that's not like the tariff thing on gold. I'm not saying you can't, but you don't tariff what you need to buy. You tariff what you don't need to buy, right? It's like, I need to buy that. If you tariff it, you can't get it. We need to buy gold. We need to buy rare earths. You beg for those, right? So by tariffing gold, he would make gold flow out. It would actually go to, in Switzerland, the gold would go there. And I said, this is crazy. I'm not saying he wasn't doing it, but I thought it was a negotiation tactic to get Switzerland to capitulate. And they did. I'm like, wow, that's a pretty good tactic. Like, it kind of made them blink. You know, he clapped his hands in their face. And then he removed it. So I said, I think he might have done that on purpose. I want to believe that, but I'm not sure. So I guess my take right now is, as long as I see Scott Bessent going out and doing the explainer version of what he says, then I think he's on track. As soon as Scott Bessent pulls back, then I get worried. It's kind of like, remember his first term? Who was the general he had that was in his corps? Mattis? Remember that guy?
Mm-hmm.
The Marine?
What was his bulldog? No, his bulldog Mattis or
I don't know.
Or somebody will correct me.
But he was like the Marine, the sane. Like, this guy is sane, and Marines have loyalty to the office of the presidency more than the other military service. And I just saw him constantly, sticking by Trump, and then he quit. And I went, that's it, it's over, because Trump's surrounded by sycophants, ass kissers, and people that are trying to get something out of it, and he knows it. He's like, I'll use you back, But there are some people that just wait him out. And so to answer your question, he's on the right path. It's taking too long. We're going to have problems. We haven't built it. There's no factory being built anywhere. We can't, this is going to come down to the dollar. And I know you want to talk about that, but if you can't build a factory to sell goods overseas right away, you have to sell what you have. What do you sell? Oil, soybeans, stuff that's laying around.
What weapons?
I'm sorry. Weapons, cars, oil, soybeans. Yes. Right, which is why we had to capitulate. I mean, China probably had to capitulate too, but we need the rare earths more than they need whatever it is that we have. And I know that because you're right. Without the rare earths, you can't sell submarines. And we have submarines on contract to be built. It's like, that's our economy. Our economy would die if we could not sell a car for 6 months. That's all it takes. I mean, that's my opinion. I think it's right, but it's an opinion.
Well, and that's how much we've been depleted, right? I mean, this country, I would get in these discussions with people like, well, we manufacture lots of things. I'm like, well, tell me what they are, because I don't see it.
Right.
we make weapons, which these
Right.
weapons have to be fired.
Right.
So it's in nobody's best interest to not have wars at this point, because again,
Right.
these missiles need to be shot.
Yeah. It's so simple that you want to say, oh, no, people don't think that way. No, they do. They do. If you have a gun, and I'm not doing gun control. I'm saying if you have weapons, it's in our interest to get them used. Maybe you don't want to use them, but it's in my interest to, it's like any other addiction. razor blades. I'll give you the rocket launcher. You have to buy the missile, something like that. Yeah, it's
Well, and because of that, to what you said, yeah, to build factories back here, but you can't do that in a week. And I know people will push back and they'll say, well, we got to start somewhere. I don't know, man. I think it's too late. I mean, you
no.
can't get these things up and running in 6 months.
Okay. This is absolutely the main point of all this. When you, I'm speak. It's going to sound like I'm dissing him, but I try. When he started his plan, it was we're going to build manufacturing back, and the key that Besant came in with was while we're building manufacturing back and while we're reducing spending in this area and while we're making more spending go up in this area to build the manufacturing, there's going to be a bridge. And the bridge between where we are now and where we will be is that bridge is we need to weaken the dollar and get the price of oil down. That's Scott Bessent. Before he was like, in order for us to rebuild manufacturing, the dollar has to be weaker and we need cheap oil. Because if oil is a penny a gallon, if let's say a penny a barrel, if you believe as an American that we're the best at getting something done with it, at innovating, well, then you want oil to be a penny a barrel because we're going to do something with it. A socialist government or an authoritarian government will be slower. I mean, there's pros to that too, but what I'm saying is you're betting on us to take cheap oil and make something great with it. And you need the dollar weaker because what we start making, what are we going to start making? We'll start making shoelaces, right? You make a shoelace factory, right? And we need the dollar weaker to sell shoelaces. I mean, do people even use shoelaces anymore? I mean, like we need to make something. We need to do what China did. China, I mean, those people were eating tree bark, and they started manufacturing, making shoelaces, and then they're making sneakers, and now they're making they're making things that add value. We don't make things we make things that add value, but they're always at the very high end of technology. And that's a big problem. To your point, we can't like even to let's say we want to start mining rare earths. To get I know where the rare earths are. I want to pull them out of the ground. How much time? 5 years. 5 years. Just to get them out of the ground. Like you can't what's the word you used? We've deindustrialized is the word I was using, but we've let so much leave.
Outsource.
Outsource, yeah, but I mean it was a stronger word. It's a good word. I forget what it was. But like, let it get away from us, let it leave. Outsource is what it is. But like, you know, all of that worked when we outsourced because people would lend us money. Now they're not lending us money. So in order to pay our debts, we have to make stuff and sell it, or we tighten our belt. So I mean, to comment on your comment, that was what he started to do, right? And the bridge was energy and the dollar. And the conversations were like this: 5 times say "Make America Great Again" in manufacturing, 1 time say dollar and energy. And now, months later, it's 1 time say build a manufacturing facility, and 5 times we're cutting deals. And those deals are to weaken the dollar, to get people to invest. We're becoming uh, the plan B has become plan A. That's it. And after the midterms, he's done. He's done. I mean, even before the midterms, you could argue that he's done, and it's a problem. So I think the guy who comes after him is going to do the same thing, but in a Democrat way. So instead of trying to spend money on a chip factory, he's going to spend money on, I don't know, student loans, something like that. And so now it's like we're not even spending money with the hope of fixing something. So uh, uh, I'm concerned, and there's things that can help us that are there, but they're kind of nuclear options. And if we do it, it shows kind of a little bit of weakness or desperation.
What's a nuclear option to you?
Um, I've been talking about this, and many people have as well. Gold revaluation is a nuclear option. Now, gold revaluation isn't something you want to do. The reason I call it nuclear is because when you do gold revaluation, you're admitting to the world you don't have enough money. I mean, we are the king of fiat. To say we're going to revalue gold and we're going to use it to reduce the debt, it's a good thing, but it's a sign that your innovation's not working. Gold is the opposite of innovation. We're tapping a piggy bank because we can't reinvent ourselves. And that's how it works. It's like you have a kid or a dependent or a worker who says, "Look, can I borrow some money?" And you say, "Well, if you have to ask me, you're in some serious trouble." And gold is the parent in that respect. That's an example of a nuclear option. Another nuclear option would be uh, a more aggressive de-dollarization. Like people were talking about a Plaza 2 Accord where we go around and we coordinate with the rest of the world to weaken the dollar. Well, we didn't really honor it. I mean, we did, but not as enough. So no one wants to do that. So he's got to go country by country. And the nuclear option is to revalue gold, take the money, reduce the debt, and buy other countries' bonds, which is crazy, but that's what he'll do.
Isn't that what
We'll
he's
have to.
doing now, though, Vince? I feel like that's what's happening now. That's the Mar-a-Lago Accord, and I think the other thing is, Stephen Moran get appointed to the Federal Reserve Board last week because he's the one that
Yeah,
wrote the usury's guide to restructure. And I'm paraphrasing the title, but he's the one that wrote the usury guide to restructuring the global financial system last year.
right, right, right. And I read that, and we've talked about it before, I think, too. Um, uh, Moran's the Mar-a-Lago Accord, the way he uh, marketed it. The Mar-a-Lago Accord describes what I'm talking about here. It basically says uh, we should. This is, I mean, people are like, oh, yeah, the gold bugs, which I am one, are like, oh, Stephen Moran's great. He wants a weaker dollar. That's great for gold. I'm like, no, you dipshit. He wants to sell the gold, not just revalue it. He wants to revalue it, sell it, and buy foreign bonds with it. That's the way you reduce our debt mathematically, right? I mean, that you don't want that. You want it revalued and you want the debt retired. You don't want the gold. He wants to sell. It says it in there. He wants to sell the gold, and that's not going to happen. It's like political suicide. And I think that's where Trump would be like, no, that's stupid, because he's a corporatist. He wants real things. But yeah, Moran is part of that. It's so funny that you bring him up because I had read it and I obsessed about it like everyone else. And then about, I don't know, 3 months ago, maybe 2 months ago, he's on an interview on Bloomberg, and he comes out and he says, the Mar-a-Lago Accord's not going to happen. They don't want to do it. And no one cared that he said that. And I went, holy shit. He's actually, I felt like he was getting fired. You know what I mean? The way he said it. But then soon after that, all these deals that you're talking about started getting negotiated. And I went, wait a minute. He's doing it. He's just not calling it that anymore. Now Moran's going to be on the Fed? Come on. I mean, that's, at least he's not pretending. That's the reason I like Trump as an accelerationist. You guys do that, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to tell you I'm doing it, and you can't fight me back because you'll all go down. It's just so funny. Anyway, cynical, but the other nuclear option is war. I mean, real war. Like AI comes on full line. I mean, and people start getting laid off, and efficiencies go up, and productivity goes up, and you don't need anyone working anymore. And it's like, well, it's either UBI or war. And we're not going to admit that we're doing UBI. We'll just call it something else, special services or something like that. So yeah,
It'll be a more sophisticated term that they'll use to not make it look as dire.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's funny the spin is out. The spin is out. Like today, Bessent was in an interview, and someone asked him about getting foreign money to invest in us, which is what I talked about earlier. Well, uh, he said, "Well, we don't need a sovereign wealth fund. We're going to take other people's money and we'll grow our economy with it because we're getting out of the." I'm like, "You're getting out of the risk because you're building your supply chains." Right, I get that. But he was spinning it like it's a privilege for them to invest in us. Now, it is. I believe that as an American. But that's not how they think right now. There are people taking their money out. You know how big of a deal, how sweet of a deal we have to give people to come here now. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you're really financial people. They understand what a convertible bond is, right? I mean, when a company's in trouble and it has debt, they have to refinance debt. They swap the debt for equity. No one will lend you money anymore unless you give them some upside. So the bonds at 2% aren't working. You got to give us bonds that allows us to give upside. We're no longer selling debt. We're selling equity. We're doing a convertible swap. We're doing a debt for equity swap, which is a sign of weakness. If anyone can do it, we can, but it's a sign of weakness. And we're going to weapon another thing. What's the other thing Moran talked about? We're going to weaponize the plumbing of the U.S., which is fascinating. When you make money selling a good, you sell the good, and the plumbing is like seen as an expense, right? Well, he wants to make the plumbing of the money, the payment chains. If you want to put your money in the U.S., you have to pay us a fee, and there's a lot of merit in that. It's not bad. It might not work, but it's not bad. What he's saying is too many people are parking their money in the U.S., making the dollar too strong. We can't sell shit if they're parking their money in the U.S. So we'll charge them a tax to park their money, essentially. So they're going to weaponize money access to the dollar. And of course, that'll make people say, "Screw it, I'm not going to be involved with the U.S. anymore." But it'll make other people say, "Well, I'll invest in the U.S. to get money access." It's like a velvet rope. So there's all these things they're going to try and do, and part of me is like, I'm glad they're doing it, but then I look at them all together and I go, "Oh shit, we're like kind of borderline panicking now a little bit." I mean, in some ways, there's panic going on.
And also, too, aren't they going to also put some type of tax on if you're an American that wants to send your money abroad, invest abroad, they're going to make you pay for that, or they're
Oh,
going to.
absolutely. Oh yeah, yeah. Maybe they're gonna tax it. Maybe they're gonna make it hard. Maybe they're gonna slow it down. I mean, yeah, that's it. You want to make sure the dollars stay here. Yeah, but you don't want any outside dollars unless you permit them.
So that's what Stephen Moran and that's what, Matt Smith and I were talking about that back in February. I mean, this is a model similar to China, if not
Let me think about.
identical. No.
Let me think about that. I didn't think about it that way. Um, um, you and Matt were talking about that. Matt's a sharp guy. The
Let me correct that. I wasn't talking about. Matt was talking about. I was just listening. So I.
I hear you. No, but Matt's a sharp guy. I like him a lot.
I'm just fortunate I get to talk to people like you and him and others. So I'm
Oh
just
yeah,
I'm a
no, and
listener. I'm not. I didn't come up with this stuff.
yeah, yeah. No, but let me. I mean, let me. That's kind of like tweaking me. Let me think about that. I think if you were to look at the U.S. and China, I don't. I have to understand more what he meant. But if you were to look at U.S. and China in this way, if you separate government from economy, so what is China? China is a capitalist country. I don't tell me they're communists with authoritarian governance. So they're centralized, and you can't leave the country. This is the point. You can't leave. I mean, you can't leave the country in China. Okay, you can't. Like you can't leave the country. You can't send your gold out of the country. You're trapped. There's a ring fence around that country. The West, the U.S. being at the tip of the spear in the West, the U.S. is democratic republic uh, capitalist, which means open borders, as open as they could be, porous. You can leave the country. Okay, they'll slow you down from taking your gold out of the country. They'll check your briefcase, but you can go in and out of the country. So what I'm saying is, in agreement with Matt, I want to just like I have an opinion now, which hopefully is good. China is an authoritarian capitalist country. When they went capitalist, we hoped to convert them to democracy. Didn't work. Color wars, Hong Kong. What's happened? We've slowly moved towards authoritarian. We're building our own fence. The wall is being built around this country. And you feel like they're building it to protect you. They're also making sure you can't get out. That started under Obama when he changed the tax rules. But I think if Matt said that and you said that, yeah, we are moving towards their style of governance while they move towards our style of economics. That's it. we're becoming an authoritarian capitalist country, which, by the way, if you're looking at it from mostly capitalists, then you're saying it's fascism. If you're looking at it mostly, if the left is in charge, it's Stalinist, right? Corporations are owned by the government as opposed to corporations telling the government what to do. I mean, it's centralizing authority. It's very, very dangerous.
So you bring up an interesting point here, and so because one of the things that I've been talking about is the idea that they have been centralizing everything, right? Or they're moving into the centralization, healthcare, economic, law enforcement. I mean, you saw Trump federalizing D.C. earlier this week. Now,
Yeah.
one thing I was having a conversation with a friend of mine on the phone actually yesterday, and we were talking about this, and I said, because Trump also mentioned New York, Chicago, and L.A. might be next. Now, I'm not saying these are bad things because these cities have been run into the ground.
Right.
But one of the things that I mean, maybe I'm wrong. My perception is to be objective and ask questions. And I said, I put it on X yesterday and got a little bit of heat. But, where if Biden was doing this, would you feel any different? And they said, well, some people respond with, I put on Substack too, response of, well, Trump's intentions are good. And it's like, okay, so you trust the government all of a sudden again? Now you trust the government?
Right.
So,
Right. Trump
but
centralized power.
it's
Right.
centralizing power. But here was the thing that I missed that my friend of mine, who's older, and they pointed this out to me. These cities, they've been centralized for a long time, and we saw this with COVID, right? The manner in which the
Oh, yeah.
messaging came across, and I didn't pick up on that. But what they're
Right.
doing is in this specific example, I think, and you tell me if you agree or not agree with it. They're putting a new centralization system in place now.
Yeah. It's squeezing it even more. Yeah. Yeah. So wait,
Replacing the
let me
old and putting a new.
let me see if I understand what you're saying. You're saying before Trump, it became apparent to you that the cities were centralized anyway, based on how they handled COVID.
Well, my friend, I asked him. I go, how far back do you think this goes? When do you think they started centralizing these cities? And he had said right after Kennedy's assassination. Now, I was born in '78, so I don't know. I don't know
Right.
if
Right.
that's true or not. But you saw. I mean, COVID should have been an example of how the messaging was just carried across,
Oh,
globally, but nationally. I mean, all the
yeah.
way down local level.
If I can use finance, because I'm very comfortable describing centralization in finance as a metaphor for everything that's happening now. Because, like, I can't speak to federalizing a city and all that, but I can tell you something that philosophically has been true since the beginning of time. And when there's a crisis, they grab more power, they centralize more. And that's in finance, to your finance people. In finance, whenever there's a crisis, 1987, right? The crash of 1987, it was because to the government, they didn't have central control. And so they don't call it central control. They call it, in finance, they call it central transmission. They want to have one lever to press that hits everywhere. They want to have distribution, right? And so after 1987, and then after the flash crash in the 90s, they started to work on something called ETFs. And ETFs were created as a convenience for investors, but they also centralize power. If I'm the government and I wanted to stop stocks from dropping, I would have had to go out to every mutual fund. Now you go to an ETF and you say, buy the basket right on the exchange, and it's done. Now, without getting into the finance part of it, the point is anytime there's a crisis, they will centralize to solve it. So if there's a problem, less banks, consolidate the banks. Like their whole philosophy is uh, exchange, reduce market risk to keep your job, and increase systemic risk. So instead of thinning the forest for the trees, they just keep cutting down the saplings, and eventually you have an old forest fire and you have a problem. So I think the centralization that you're talking about, it's a big deal. I'm speaking as a libertarian now. It's a fucking disease, Michael. It's a disease. It's like Are you familiar with dogs?
Dogs, like the animals?
Yeah, animals,
Yeah,
animals, yeah.
yeah.
All right. So I had border collies, right? And border collies, they love to herd shit. They love to like, I mean, you give them toys. I had one with you give him a bunch of toys all over the house. He he would put them in a pile and watch them. Like he'd herd them. Government, and it was an obsession to like, I want to keep all my stuff in one place. Government is a demented border collie. They need to centralize everything because they want job security. So if there's a crisis, what was the Fed's response? Make these banks go out of business and then consolidate them under JP Morgan. Consolidate, consolidate. Now, everything that's happening in every aspect of the country can be explained through my finance lens. The federalization, the changing of cities. You're saying they're going from a centralization to more centralization, or from left centralization to right centralization. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be left or right. I think it's just from an old centralization system to a new
Right.
centralized system that includes, as of right now, it's just in DC, but that includes troops walking around these areas,
Oh yeah.
more of a presence, a physical presence.
Yeah.
That's what it
So
seems
so
like.
so it's ratcheting it up. They're ratcheting it up. Yeah. I mean, the more these things happen, the more I say, well, didn't they kind of do that during COVID too? Meaning it was like a test run, yeah. I remember seeing videos of trucks moving. Uh, I'm really concerned about that because, um, uh, you were talking about people, they trust Trump's intent. Okay. All right. Let's pretend that I trust Trump's intent. Do I trust the next guy's intent? Because what you're doing is you're weakening the structure that forcibly keeps the Constitution in power. And so he may have done it for the right reason. The next guy might come along and do it for the wrong reason, the left reason, the anarchist reason, not anarchist, the Stalinist reason. The You're weakening it for the next guy. It's generationally, it'll hurt us. The strong presidency, which what Trump is doing, is he's just doing the next step in strong presidency, right? I mean, it started under Nixon, but I guess it became more obvious to us under 9/11, Patriot Act, and all that stuff. I mean, he's centralizing. It's very dangerous. There's no young trees in the forest. There's just a lot of old trees, and people are going to get hurt. I think people are going to get hurt. Um,
This is what I can't understand though, and maybe you can explain this to me. And I've had people explain it in the simplest way that they can. And I still can't get it. So it might even just be it's so far above my head that I can't grasp it. I don't understand the Genius Act and how it ties into stable coins, and now you can start putting your 401ks and buying crypto with it. Like I don't get any of that.
all right, so you're probably bullshitting me. You probably know
No,
what's
I
going
swear to
on.
God, I don't get like Tether and also too. Matt talked about this. When we spoke. I mean, we've spoken since, but potentially this was back in February. Would Tether possibly replace the Federal Reserve? Is the Federal Reserve going to be destroyed and then privatized, or
Okay, all right. I'm going to take a shot at this. I think I have a good handle on it. Um, it 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 comes down to, I guess there's like three different things to talk about without going down a rabbit hole. The first thing is we need people to have a reason to own dollars to invest in the US. We don't want them to sell their treasuries anymore. All right. Now, what stable coins are, among other things, stable coins are like a new money market fund. Now, you put money in a money market fund, and it acts like a savings account, but the reality is when you want to take money out, let's say you want to buy a stock with it, they have to liquidate the fund and they put the money into the stock the next day. It's like it's one day, but it's a big one day. It's a big deal. And you may remember, I think it was after the great financial crisis, we almost had our money market funds break. They almost broke. And so the money market fund, uh, is pretend the money market fund is replaced with a stable coin, just one stable coin. And that stable coin says that you do not have to liquidate the money market fund to buy the stock. The stable coin is a shell. It's all about legal terms. The stable coin is a shell and a contract. It guarantees what's in it. And so we, instead of having to put treasuries into something, sell the treasuries to buy the stock, you put the treasuries in the stable coin, it stays and the stable coin buys the stock. Now, we may say, what's the big deal? It's a big deal because you're cutting 24 hours out of everything and you're making it's less risk for them. They don't have to worry about you basically taking $20 out of your bank account twice, that type of thing. It's a contract. And so by doing that, by doing that, you tell people, I mean, I'm simplifying it, but this is one of the things you do. You say, okay, you have treasuries, you're looking to sell them. Why? Well, gold's safer. Okay, fine. How about we let you keep those treasuries and give you a piece of IBM or a company or Exxon? And they say, well, how can I do that? Well, you put it, and I'm not making this up, it just happens. You put your treasuries into stable coins. The stable coin buys a piece of Exxon. You now own a piece of Exxon in treasuries as your collateral. So the collateral doesn't have to be liquidated. And so what does it do? It says to someone, I can own treasuries, and even though it's not as safe, I'll use my gold for safety. I'll use the treasuries for my upside. So you create demand for treasuries. And you take that treasuries, it's really derivatives. You're creating demand for treasuries and you're parlaying the treasuries into companies. So you're completely undermining treasuries as a safe haven, completely. Like, if stocks go down, then treasuries get liquidated. It's the opposite of what we're used to. Stocks go down, everyone buys treasuries. It's very bad in that respect. It'll be another problem a couple of years from now. But are you with me so far? Like, did I make sense of it so far?
Yeah. So stable coin, one stable coin is the equivalent of $1, correct? It's like a 1-for-1 ratio.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't move.
It doesn't move.
It's like a
So in order to get people to hang on to their treasuries, they're basically putting the stable coin as a middleman and saying, all right, we'll let you have a stake in, again, IBM or NVIDIA, or some Apple or something.
NVIDIA will be like, yeah, I definitely will do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
So am I gathering that correctly then?
No, you got it right. You got it right. So now let's give you a real example. It just happened. Everyone can look it up. Donald Trump started I forget what it's called, Liberty. I'm not sure what it's called, but he started a stablecoin company. And the first stablecoin was like USDC1. I forget what the name is. Well, a company called MGX, if you're looking up, it's M, Mary, God, Xavier, MGX. They bought the stablecoin, put their treasuries into the Trump stablecoin, and then they used the Trump stablecoin to come to America and buy a piece of the Binance exchange. It's out there. It happened. It's like a test case. That's why he's pro crypto and to line his own pockets, obviously. But also, you remove the need for a bank. See, I put my treasuries in the stablecoin. The stablecoin is the contract. It's like a lockbox, and I can take the stablecoin and I can buy American companies with it. He just did that. Like, we're doing that. That's part of the deal. So what ends up happening is you're JP Morgan and I'm Bank of America, right? We're the only two banks in the country that are allowed to create stablecoins. That's not true, but for this conversation, we'll do it that way. And we start making products. What's the product? Well, the stablecoin is the JP Morgan stablecoin that you have, and I have the Bank of America stablecoin. That's our product, as opposed to central bank digital currency. Okay, so central bank digital currency.
It's the same thing. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
But I'm being a capitalist, right? At least the bank can say no. the bank can fight back. They're not going to fight back on your behalf, Michael, but they're going to fight back on their own behalf. So central bank digital currency is invasive of privacy. The bank invades your privacy. If the government ever wants to get you, they have to ask the bank. No different than what the tech companies did for the left. Same idea. But so now you're JP Morgan and you create the JP Morgan stablecoin. It's basically JP Morgan bucks. And I create the Bank of America stablecoin. Now, what is the stablecoin? It's cash. It's cash. It's my treasury in a Bank of America stablecoin. And now JP Morgan says, we have a new product. We have a new gold fund that's tokenized gold that gives you ownership of gold without actually, whatever, I'm not going to get into whether it works or not. The point is, you're now using the JP Morgan stablecoin at JP Morgan to buy the JP Morgan, product. It becomes Amazon bucks. It becomes a coupon that you use. And so, like, I'm competing with you. You get all the big guys in gold, and I go, oh, shit, I got to have a gold product too. And I say, you know what? I'll sell smaller size gold. This way I'll get more people to do it. And they start competing. And you create a whole world of bullshit products. Some will be good, some will be bullshit. It'll start with gold because that's at least when you start with an experiment, you want to start with something that's stable. But so it becomes a bubble. It's kind of like when we went out and negotiated with the Arabs in 71 or 76, the petrodollar was invented. We said, okay, listen, make everyone buy oil in dollars, and you can put the money in treasuries, and we'll let you buy military for discount, and we'll protect you and all that other stuff. Well, what they're doing is they're finding another country to buy treasuries, and that other country is the United Nations of stablecoin, and they're going to hold treasuries and buy our stock. It's another fucking bubble, and there's another precedent for this. In 1982, Ronald Reagan did this, not stablecoins. In 1982, Ronald Reagan said, because we're in the stagflation and the recession that came after it. Like, I lived through that as a kid, and my family felt it. What Reagan came along and said is, we need more people to buy stocks. Change the tax law. Let insurance companies start offering variable annuities, more aggressive things. And what happened? Over the next 5 years, everyone went into stocks. In 1987, we had a crash. This is probably what's going to happen here. But, I've said to my subscribers, my readers, I say, look, you can distrust it. And you could definitely not look at it as a store of value if you're a gold person. But it's not going away. And 20 years from now, if it hasn't blown up, your kids will be using it like you use a money market fund. It's here. Otherwise, we're going to have to tighten our belts.
And what role will the Federal Reserve play in all this?
Oh, yeah. That's the whole centralization thing. See, let's talk Bitcoin here, or the concept of crypto. The concept of crypto.
Let me interrupt you for a second. Don't lose your thought there. But I was talking about this yesterday in my conversation with Clem Chambers, and I said, with younger people, the young people that I get to talk to, they love Bitcoin, Vince. Like, and Clem said, yeah, it's their rock and roll. Like, they love Bitcoin. Right. These 20-year-olds.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's their religion. I was into music. You were into video games. Like that, they're all into Bitcoin now. The decentralization. You know what I mean? In a sense, it's like the printing press. Before the printing press, your books were written by monks, calligraphy, centralized. The printing press comes along, and everyone can write flyers and letters. Well, decentralization, accompanying with money, allows you to operate your money without an intermediary, right? So, and by the way, this is I think part of the government, the land grabs that you're talking about. Whether it be at the Fed level, the Federal Reserve level, I think people disagree with me that are smarter than me, but maybe I don't think I'm wrong. I think I'm early. How's that? But the government, it's kind of like this. These tools of decentralization money make us not need banks anymore, ideally. Make us not need a Federal Reserve anymore, ideally. Well, what does a bureaucratic institution want to do more than anything else? Survive. And so the triage begins. Let's grab more power and centralize while we can, and let's get rid of the ones, let's make room for us. I mean, it's more obvious in Europe. We're going to have central bank digital currency, and everyone's going to be happy and say, like they're doing the whole left, thing. We're going to protect you. But the Federal Reserve, I think, as a bureau, I view bureaucratic institutions as living things that want to survive. And so they're going to do what they can to survive. And then I look at the corporate banks and I go, they're going to do what they can to survive. And so there'll be, I have a chart, I should give it to you. I just saw it today. FDIC banks for the last 30 years, down, down. Like every time there's a crisis, worse, worse. And it never comes back. There's no new banking licenses coming out. So I believe that the decentralization of Bitcoin and crypto has created a survival mechanism in the Fed and the bigger banks say, okay, well, listen, JP Morgan, listen, it looks to me like we don't really need banks anymore. I mean, being honest, at some point, well, how do we make sure that we need banks? Well, let's make Bitcoin an ETF, and let's make the ETF controllable by the government in partnership with the banks. And let's make sure it's only the banks we like. That's it.
So I hate to tell the same story that I've done in multiple conversations, but somebody said this to me, and I want to share this analogy with you to get your thoughts. But you meet the Bitcoin people that what is their thing? Decentralization, You'll never be able to centralize. Never be able to centralize. Yeah. That's what they say, right? Yeah. I mean. Now, I am not a Bitcoin expert, so I have no way to call it into question. But one of the things that I think back to, and again, somebody else told me this, so I don't want to take credit for it, but Napster. You remember Napster. I remember Napster. That was destroying the music industry by sharing. I participated. My thought was, I'm going to borrow the music. That way, if the Coconuts ever burns down, they can borrow my copy. So I didn't steal anything. Kidding, right. but we were sharing music. Then I was on LimeWire, downloading tons of songs, and that to me is decentralization at that time because you took one down, another one pop up, boom, 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 right. And one after another. Well, so what did they do? They brought in Sean Parker from Napster. They put him in, I think it was Spotify. He was part of Facebook too. He was a co-founder of Facebook. But they put him on the board or whatever, a main advisor at Spotify. And now everybody uses Apple Music or Spotify, and they pay. I mean, I have Apple Music. I pay whatever it is, $12 a month for it. Right. Napster's gone. LimeWire gone. All that stuff is gone. So, and people push back saying they can never do that to Bitcoin. And again, I'm not an expert, but
yeah, they can. They're doing it now. They've already done it. Okay, I hear you. So here's the Napster one is perfect. It's a perfect analogy. It really is a perfect analogy.
And young people don't know Napster. The 20-year-olds don't know. They don't know that story.
And it's right. And it never was big enough. They didn't talk, but all right. So I'm not going to that rabbit hole. But throughout history, when a new innovation happens technologically, it disrupts the status quo. And the status quo either adapts, co-ops, destroys, or goes out of business, right? So Napster was threatening the whole industries. And you know what? It really did ruin the record companies. And now it re-centralized under a different kind of boss, the distribution boss, the Apple boss, the Spotify and the Apple boss. And so the innovation, I saw this actually in trading. When it went from a floor to a screen, there was a disruption. And the disruption was all the important people on the floor, there were very powerful people on the floor. Either they adopted quickly, cut deals, or withered on the vine. And that's what happened in the recording industry and to journalism, right? With online stuff. So, but here's the Bitcoin thing. They're going to say it's different. And, I understand that you can't really centralize Bitcoin. Okay. I'm going to be the person who's going to stop Bitcoin. All right. So here's how it works. This is what they're doing. They did it with gold. This is what they did with gold. Okay. Gold can't be centralized. It can't be branded. I mean, it can be, but we can't really centralize Bitcoin because it'll exist everywhere. You can't shut all the electricity. Let's pretend that let's remove the argument that they can crack it. Remove it. It's gone. You can't crack it. Let's say never going to be able to crack it, and you can't replicate it. And it's permissionless. There's no one to talk to. There's no one's arm to twist. There's no one to hire from Napster. It's just there, right? Okay, it exists. So what do? I'm threatened by this new thing. Can I destroy it? Well, they tried to. Can I delay it and keep it down? Yeah, they did that successfully. Can I co-opt it? Well, Apple co-opted music. So the government said, what's the one thing that this is really key? I mean, I don't think people really understand this, but it's really key in how we control markets. What's the one thing that we have that no one else has? We have the global reserve currency. And because we have the global reserve currency, everyone uses dollars for almost everything. Okay? And because we have the global reserve currency, we have very healthy exchanges, more or less. And those exchanges are pricing mechanisms for the world. We advertise price to the world. So before Bitcoin became an ETF, let's say the United States owned 1% of it, and the rest of the world owned 99%. Okay. And at night, Bitcoin would have these crazy moves because that's when everyone else is doing stuff. It was like, wow, Bitcoin's up 10% tonight. Wow, what the hell's going on there? And then US hours went, what? But they create an exchange. When you create an exchange, you suck the liquidity out of other places. And you say, well, why would people just move over there? Well, they wouldn't just move over there at first. But Americans would be sold on the idea. Normies, boomers, Gen X like me. Bitcoin. Okay, I'll do some Bitcoin. I'll sell my gold and buy some Bitcoin. And we have the dollars. And little by little, you start seeing the price in the US be where the price is. It becomes accepted. It becomes, the movie Trading Places where it goes, Valentine has set the price. The US has set the price. Now, when we set the price, can we make it go to zero? Yeah, we can. Can we make it go to zero forever? No. We can make it go to zero for 5 minutes, which is all we need to do to wreck a country or to wreck you. So centralization is defeated with decentralization, no doubt. But if you can't destroy it and you can't keep it down forever, you have to partner with it. And you utilize your American buying power to take market share in the volumes. And so you centralize it by letting everyone own it, but you control it. It's the difference between ownership and control. Ownership and control. I still own my Bitcoin, and I can't use it now because I'm on a list, right? I mean, that's a real thing that's happening already. They can do that if they want to, if they have to. That's it. So Bitcoin is defeated by winning. So I'm a Bitcoin, I'm a maxi. Decentralization. Screw the government, right? Okay, so I'm like the modern version of the gold bug, libertarian. And they say, all right, well, we're going to put it on exchange. Oh, that's bad. We don't want that. We don't want that. But then I say, oh, well, Bitcoin's kind of a Trojan horse. And, it really could be. I'm not saying it's not. Bitcoin's kind of a Trojan horse. Bitcoin, once it gets inside, will infect them and it will destroy from within. You know what? If anything can, Bitcoin can, because it's not a person. It's not going to be affected. But all the people that own Bitcoin, one by one, over the next 20 years, they'll start selling it for convenience to put it on an exchange. And one by one, all the real Bitcoin will be consolidated in BlackRock, in JP Morgan, custodially, just like they did with gold. In 1974, when gold futures were created, they were approving of it because it was a way to centralize price and get people away from buying physical gold. They're doing the same thing. Bitcoin is gold 2.0. Get ready to be manipulated for 20 years. That's it. So can Bitcoin take over the government in that respect? Yeah, it could, but we'll burn down everything first before we let it happen. That's what I think. So Bitcoin could be centralized and controlled.
Do you think that, like the people, like the Bitcoin influencers, will they be left out in the cold with the amount that they claim that they own? And I mean, will eventually it'll backfire and it won't be worth anything type of scenario, or will they cash out and the government will overpay?
Oh
Or,
yeah,
or,
yeah.
or will the government would the government just create their own version of it and then leave this decentralized Bitcoin? And again, I'm not an expert. I'm just thinking off the top of my
No,
head.
I mean,
Would they create their own version of it, and then all these people that talk about their decentralized Bitcoin, they're just left out in the cold because they'll incentivize regular people to use this new system. We'll give
right.
you whatever, I don't know, $100, 500 Bitcoin,
We'll
or
do something to get you off of it onto something else. Absolutely. No, that's all right. So the U.S. financial model that ends up controlling other things, it's based on liquidity. So we take the liquidity from your thing and put it in our thing. So think about gold to gold futures. All the money flows into gold futures. It's convenient. It's easy. It's automatic. I can press a button now, and gold is cumbersome. So I get all the benefits of gold and none of the problems, right? And so that convenience sucks everyone in. Bitcoin, same idea, same idea. The influencers that you referred to. What did the government do? They created futures. They got people to buy the futures, and they steered them away from actual gold. So your question is, how will they? What's their next step? Essentially, I bet they have a menu. Next step: get them to buy something else. Yeah, that's what Ethereum is. Ethereum is not decentralized. Ethereum. I mean, look, I'm banks right now, today, right now, as we're recording this, Standard Charter came out and said, we think Ethereum is going to 7,500, which is a massive move. And like something like 22,000 in 3 years. It's an over the top thing, but Standard Charter does a lot of work in digital now. They understand that stuff. So who's going to buy Bitcoin? I mean, who's going to buy Ethereum? People that already bought Bitcoin. I guess I'll sell my Bitcoin. You dilute the true maxis by either creating a product, as you just said, bribing them, which goes with the product but doesn't have to be, convenience, or the hardcore people who don't convert, you shut them out. And you know how you shut them out? By taking liquidity from everyone else. It's kind of like, when there's a new product, like we'll give you the first 90 days free. And then after 2 years of that, they stop that offer because they have critical mass. They don't need you anymore. Screw you. The network is worth more than the product. And so they will do that with Bitcoin. China's doing it right now with gold. Right now they're doing it. They're getting their people to buy gold, to sell dollars and buy gold, to sell gold and buy ETFs, to sell ETFs and buy yuan, to buy yuan and then use it to buy stocks. It's all about getting people to change their habits over decades. And we're doing that. We're doing that. It's happening. Yeah.
where do you think this country will be by 28? In terms, well, we spent an hour talking about all this. Give me a forecast, Vince, of where you think things
Oh,
will be at.
I hate doing that.
Well, it's interesting
Forecast.
because then you go back and listen, and you're like, okay, I got some things right, I got some things wrong, but just overall, I mean, where do you think this
No,
country
I
will be?
understand. I understand. It's no, you're forcing me to map out a path. No, that's important. Um, 2028. Uh, the government is much stronger and centralizing more. They may not come out and directly centralize, but they'll do it slowly. Uh, we will have moved more towards stable coins, which decentralizes ownership, but keeps centralization of control, like Bitcoin, it does with Bitcoin. The government will be closer to being much. I think the government's going to be authoritarian. It's going to move towards authoritarianism. I think. I think we're moving away from democracy, and every time a threat comes out to centralization, the monster, the bureaucratic monster, reacts. The deep state, which is commonly used to describe the left, it's not the left. It's the bureaucracy. And yeah, they all happen to be left because they were all appointed from back when Clinton was in, but it's a monster. And I think that that bureaucracy is marching us towards a very bad end. Like I fear that by 2028, I'll see us on a path towards being Argentina in the 90s and O's. And mind you, the things that could help us. Let me speak as a person pro-authoritarian for a minute. All right, I just want to. This is what's going to be sold to us in a couple of years. You know why China's doing so well, Mr. Smith? Not Matt Smith, but Mr. Jones will just say, you know why China's doing so well? Because they don't have democracy to deal with. They don't have to poll. And let's be honest, democracy slows us down. A central authority, we get things done. We're falling behind. We got to move faster. We're a big aircraft carrier that's hard to turn. And everything is going to push us towards centralization. We're falling behind. We need to do this. We need to centralize. It'll be like the Patriot Act, but economically. It's very dangerous. I think we're on that path, and I think it'll get far worse before it gets better. And I'm not even a dystopian person about this. I think something will screw it up for them. Like AI will make unemployment go up so much that they'll have to rewrite everything. But I believe that the West is moving towards an authoritarian brand of government, while the East is moving towards a capitalist style of economy. And I believe we're on that path. Whoever the next president is, he's going to walk into a place that, yeah, everyone's going to push back and say, we don't want anything like Trump. And he's going to say, yeah, okay, I'm going to fix that. It's a banana republic. So yeah, I think in 2028, let's pretend that Trump is perfect in everything that he's doing now. Execution, because I want him to do well. Who is his successor? There is no successor. See, he's so brand oriented and he's not grooming anyone to be successor. There is no Republican Party. It's the Trump Party that controls the Republican Party right now. And when he's done, there's no one like him who's going to take that spot. There's no heir apparent. And so I think there's. All right, so here's a disaster that I'm worried about. Right? This is a nightmare for me. Trump gets as much as he wants to get done. And if we have another person like him, who's not so authoritarian, will be on the way. I want to be good stuff here. He centralized control, like Caesar. He centralized control during the war. When the war is over, you move on. We're in a war right now. So he centralizes control. I trust his intentions. He gets the economy on the right track. We start to grow out of it. And then a new president comes in who's not Trump. And if it's someone on the right, I don't know who it would be. If it's someone on the left, and I do believe it could be someone on the left, that person is going to come in because after Trump leaves, the Republican Party is going to be chaos. I think it'll be chaos. And I think he'll leave in his wake a gap because he's a larger than life person. And whoever the next person who comes in is going to come in with an authoritarian bent on the left and undo this. It's going to be like a fucking banana republic. So I believe that we're in a path towards authoritarian rule. And I really, really believe that. And nothing will make it go away. AI is going to make everyone unemployed. Okay, fine. So what they'll do is they'll give you money and they'll build a 15-minute city and they'll give you a Wi-Fi so you can't go out of it. Central bank digital currency will happen either through banks or through the government. We're going back to a plantation mindset, a feudal mindset, techno-feudalism, where when things get out of control, the border collie has to herd it. Let's let the people in the cities, okay, we can't build all those 15-minute cities that we want to build. Well, let's just put a fence around New York, something out of like Judge Dredd or something like that. Let's put a fence around that, or let's centralize money. Central bank digital currencies. Look, this is a nightmare. I mean, so you got me started now. There's one thing that Ayn Rand, let's just say a name, and Karl Marx agreed on, 100% agreed on. Marx said, capitalism sucks, but at least you have money and money makes you mobile. You can now leave the plantation. You don't have to live on the feudal. You can take your profits, your pay, even though you're being exploited, whatever. You take the money and you can go somewhere and you could spend it somewhere else. So he was pro money that came out of capitalism. Rand said, a famous quote, uh, if you if you take away money, men will deal with each other with blood and swords or something like that. Basically, if you remove money as a means of dealing with each other, there'll be enslavement, there'll be power. And so when you take money that you have in your hand that's portable, even if it's digital, I mean, I don't like digital, but if it's digital and portable, at least you can leave and spend it somewhere else. But suppose it's in a Wi-Fi network. Central bank digital currency doesn't work at the liquor store, at the cigarette store. And you and I will be like, okay, that's all right. I'm okay with that. And then it's like, okay, now I can't buy Wonder Bread anymore. Well, it's shit, but what are they going to do next? And then it's Pop-Tarts. And after Pop-Tarts, it's, you know what? We only want you to buy things by this company. And if you leave the plantation, your money doesn't work. Like, I really think they're going to do everything they can to control and hurt everything. And I think it gets a lot worse before it gets better. I'm concerned.
It's amazing in Phoenix where I live. I'm seeing these 15-minute cities pop up all over the place.
Have you?
I mean, I think that's what they are. I mean, when you look at an area where they put a Whole Foods and they put high-rise apartments right above it, the gym right next to it, some of the area like regional restaurants like known in the Valley in Phoenix.
Yeah.
They might have 5-7 locations. All of a sudden, they've got them on the property as well. So you really don't need to leave. And if you work remotely, there's no reason to go anywhere.
Right.
Well, and what I think was interesting, I was in Virginia and at the beginning of June and staying in a similar type of one of those outdoor malls. They're all the same. I don't care what part of the country you're in. These outdoor malls, they have like Athleta, Apple, high-end steakhouse chain, Ruth Chris.
The strip mall, whatever.
Yeah. So I was staying with a friend of mine there, and you had to use a fob to access the elevator. So let's say I'm on the 5th floor and I want to go up to the 10th floor where the gym is. I still got to use that fob, punch in the number to the floor, and then use the fob for the elevator to work.
Right.
So I'm assuming the stairwell probably always works to get down, but obviously you can't go up. But I mean, man, they could literally stick you in your apartment.
Well, but Michael, they're doing it for your safety. Oh. You don't want outsiders to come on that elevator and go to your floor. They're protecting you.
But once you're already in, if I'm already on the 5th floor, what do I need to use my fob again to go up to the 15th floor?
Because it's a level of security. That's why you have two. I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah, right. No,
that's why you have 2 fences in the prison. But now the prison is around you. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. I mean, it's happening. It's happening. Yeah. I mean, the 15-minute city thing, it's kind of interesting because that's where it's kind of funny because what they'll do is they'll come out with an idea, like they call it degrowth, the WEF, Davos, let's deindustrialize. They come out with these ridiculous statements. They see it goes over bad. You'll own nothing and be happy. That one, right? You'll own nothing and be happy. The smiling idiot on the front page who could be white, he could be Spanish, like the whole bullshit labeling thing. But they realized that was too over the top, and now they're subversive about it, and they're doing it. Like if you were to tell me 10 years ago that they would not necessarily bomb a town in Hawaii, but not put out the fire once it started, I'd say, nah, that's crazy. It's not crazy. There's people that are in power want to stay in power. They're psychos.
Well, and it's amazing too how they turn it around to get the masses to be like, yeah. I mean, now where I live, it is nice. I mean, I have a Whole Foods right next to me. I could walk to the theater. I walk to the gym. There's a desert right behind me, so I could walk out my door and just go run. Easily get a 10-mile run in. It's great.
Right.
But I'm in a different world now, like you are, and I look at things differently. And I see. I mean, this where I live, it was never designed. I don't think it was the intention to be designed that way. But now when I see these like miniature cities, with high-rise apartments and then retail, which it has the same types of stores in all these centers, you're like, wow, they're literally doing it. And in Northeast Ohio, where I'm from, they're doing them there too. And people are like, wow, this is so exciting. I don't have to go anywhere. Everything is right here. I can go drink and.
That's funny. You bring that up. I have a friend who's a big real estate developer, and he does high-end private houses, and he also finances malls in the Philadelphia area. And we were talking about commercial real estate collapsing, with everyone working from home during COVID. And I said, so what's happening in your business? He goes, well, everyone's moving to houses, in the Midwest, they can. I go, well, what about, the malls? He goes, oh, the malls are done. He's like, they're done. I go, what's going to replace it? And he said it to me then. He goes, you're going to have supermarkets. He described what I've seen in New York years ago, and that is you have a Columbus Circle, you have a tower, and in the basement you have a Whole Foods, and you have basically a mall underneath the building, the drugstore, all those things, and you're making it one thing. He goes, what we're doing is we're making the mall where you live, was one of the ways he put it. So you live here and the mall is right outside. Don't need a car. Sell it as there's no pollution. Everything's self-contained. It's a community. You know what it is? It's a neighborhood. I grew up in a neighborhood. The thing is, you get to a certain age, you start to go out of the neighborhood to see what's in the world. They have no intention of letting you out of the neighborhood. You're a chicken in a coop. And eventually I will start questioning my free will, because how much of what I do is being programmed? A lot. A lot. I'm scared.
So what I just referenced, that was an old mall. They took it, the Paradise Valley Mall. I don't know how familiar you are with Phoenix and Scottsdale, but it was a Paradise Valley Mall that they leveled. They put a Costco in it. They leveled the mall. The Costco's still there. They built a Whole Foods from the ground up, high-rise apartments above it, and then also there's going to be a Lifetime Fitness, if you're familiar with it. It's a huge gym out of Minneapolis. Yeah. Lifetime and Whole Foods are building like crazy out in the valley right now. And so there's going to be a Lifetime Fitness in the parking lot. It might even already be done. And then they've got these regional restaurant chains that have built as well on this property. And then across the street, there's more shops. Yes. Yeah, basically. So you can get your entertainment. You can get your entertainment, your physical activity, your grocery shopping, and you don't have and they sell it. You don't need your car. You don't need your insurance. You don't need insurance.
Yeah. You don't need your car, and so the job that you have can pay you less because you're not commuting anymore. Like it's all about incremental land grabs, and I mean, without being conspiracy, this is the way of centralization. That's what they want to do. They want control. They want to manage it, and they want to do it for your benefit. But it's not for your benefit. It's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. Yeah. And you know what? It'll happen. It'll happen. And they're not going to care about. They don't care about me. And they're not going to care about you soon. And what I mean is, like with Bitcoin, you entice as many people on it as you can with 90 days free, with discounts. You get early adopters. And the people who stay out of it are you and me. And you're younger than me, so maybe at some point they'll punish you. You won't be able to have liquidity. You won't be able to get your 10-mile run-in because there's something that blocks you. They put up an easement or something like that. Me, they won't care about me because it's generational. They're like, he'll die. We don't care about that. I mean, in the Bible, when the Israelites are in the desert, I remember asking, one of my teachers, like, why 40 years? Like, what the hell is that all about? He goes, well, because they were used to being slaves and they weren't used to having freedom. And so it took 2 generations for them to figure out that the promised land was right there. That's how slow they were. And he goes, now in reverse. It's going to take 2 generations, but our grandchildren will be controlled, like Elysium or something. Anyway.
Well, and also too, notice how with the coming back to the DC federalizing of DC earlier this week, how people were cheering it and how people are cheering New York, Chicago, and LA. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing because those places you're a New Yorker. I mean, what has that city turned into in the time, what does it look like now? But people are cheering. They're cheering for it.
It should never happen to New York. And I say that as a New Yorker, but I also say that because New York will be fine. New York is one of the big cities that will be fine because for a different reason. So you're talking about the cheering for it. Let's the cheering for part. When the DC thing happened, my initial reaction was, My initial reaction was understanding what he's doing. Like, okay, he's changing the subject. He's now pivoting towards to get his popularity up. He's pivoting tough on crime. He's pivoting to safe. And I'm like, okay, fine. So he's just throwing things out there to see what catches. He's throwing shit to stick to the wall. And then I went, you know what, though? DC is a shithole and it needs to be federalized. I don't object to that. And then what happens when it comes to Stanford? I'm in Connecticut. Let's do it in Connecticut. Fuck that. Like, that's the thing, what is it? They came for they came for the Washington D.C.ers, and I did not stand up. New York, I mean, you got to be a moron if you want that to happen in New York. It's moronic. It won't happen. I think New York. It will not happen in New York. It will not happen in New York because New York's going to have another influx of immigrants soon. I think you're going to have another exodus, not tomorrow. You're going to have another exodus of affluent, white, trust fund Europeans coming to the U.S. They're going to be leaving there to get away from their own problems. And so New York will at least will get some fresh blood in it. And that might be good. It might be good. I hope it's good. But, it's funny because they would rather do that than let it go bankrupt, right? New York went bankrupt in the 70s. They didn't want that. They don't want that to happen again. They'd rather control it and destroy individual freedom than let it organically collapse and fix itself. Who's cheering for this? People are morons.
Well, that's why. But I also think too is, and I'll probably get pushback. But to your point, where we're getting a little bit older, and with the boomers, and I'm not saying all boomers are bad. Before I get another email of people,
right,
giving me shit for it.
All boomers are bad. I'm Gen X. All boomers are bad. You can send your hate mail to me.
Yeah, you know what? That's the other thing too. I'm going to say this really because I get these messages. People are like, "Well, you need to with your guests." And look, if you got a problem with somebody, you got a problem with Vince. He's on X. You can go after him. I'm not the middleman here. I don't pass messages on. So if people have a problem with what Vince said, go after him. And if he chooses to respond, he can respond. I've been getting a lot of that lately too, which is kind of funny. But no, they'll eventually. I'll be too old. They won't care. And, I'll become invisible.
You'll become invisible and you won't have the will to start up a revolution. What's his name? David Graeber. He's like anarchist. He was the guy who did Occupy Wall Street. He left the country. They threw him out of the country. I mean, I don't know how they threw him out of the country, but he's like, I was asked to leave. I'm like, okay, that's crazy. But yeah, that's what happens. Because he's younger. There's 10 people like you. 2 of them will buy into it. 10 people like us. 2 of them will buy into it. 2 of them will resist. 2 of them will die of a heart attack. And the other 2, they'll resist, but they won't have the energy to do it. And so it's divide and conquer. Everything's atomization now. Divide and conquer. It's kind of interesting. They're going to centralize where people are, but then keep them in their own compartments. It's very Matrix battery type stuff. Do
you think Mamdani's going to be going to be the mayor of New York? Not your mayor, but the mayor.
Yeah, I want him to win. I'm an accelerationist because you need a moron like that to win to remind people that it doesn't work. It seems that in economics and finance, wisdom is cyclical. It's like every 30 years, you need to have a socialist try something. And then it falls on its face and you're done with it. I mean, he's going to ruin the city. Let him do it. Let it be ruined and then it'll be fine. I mean, that's very cynical for me to say, but I think people will wise up quicker because New York is so diverse, they won't put up with it. He's going to win. Let him win. Let him win. Let him win.
Hey, you think they'd have learned after Cuomo, though? You think that would have been enough for people to wake up?
But there's no choice. There's no choice. It's either him or Cuomo now, right? Isn't he running against Cuomo?
Well, I'm sorry but Cuomo was the governor. Well, you had No, no, no. I forgot that. I mean, I know Cuomo because his name, but he was the governor. I was thinking and for the
Yeah,
state
yeah.
why they would,
Right,
after,
I see what you're saying. I see what you're
yeah.
saying.
And
Yeah,
so I was getting my positions screwed up because
I
what's his
understand.
name before Adams? Why I can't think of the guy's name. Who was the guy before Eric Adams?
It was a nobody. I don't know. I forget.
He was the guy
After,
saying, "You want your French fries? You want to get access to a good burger?"
oh, wait, wait, wait. The guy,
Mayor,
yeah, yeah, yeah. He was a mayor,
the last
and
mayor.
yeah, but his whole shtick on the left was, I have a black wife, something like that. There was that guy during COVID with the French fries.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What the hell was that guy's name? Why am I? Why am I? I gotta look.
we have to look it up now.
Because people will
Oh
come
my
on and correct
God,
me.
that's how forgettable is that?
Yeah, he spoke. He was bilingual.
Yeah, he's a smart guy. Uh,
Um, Eric Adams is the current governor. Uh,
or Adams,
God, I could
Bill de
pick Bill
Blasio.
De
Bill
Blasio.
de Blasio, right? Italian guy, smart guy, and like a little bit left of fucking Stalin. You know,
But that wasn't enough to wake people up.
it was. I think we were all put to sleep during COVID. You know what I mean? We forgot his name. You and I forgot his name.
It's amazing that
Who is?
it felt like a lifetime ago, and here we are now, and here we are now. We spent 90 minutes talking about surveillance, and I think you are on the same page of where we think this is going, and I also think though too is I don't know if you know. I don't even know if it matters who's sitting in that chair anymore. I think this is all inevitable where it's going.
Oh yeah. I mean, you can either assume that they're working together, left and right, taking turns, like the NFL, the NFC, and the AFC winning championships, or you could say that they're fighting each other genuinely. But either the machine, the organic bureaucracy, is pushing us towards this centralization and authority until it breaks, or uh, they're working together and they're going to like Trump. I mean, Biden did everything Trump did, except for he did it the way the left would do it. Like he sold the oil. You don't sell the oil. Okay? He forgave the student loans. Well, Trump is doing things not like that, but he's oh God, it's about money. Sad.
I was thinking about really. I'll tell you this really quick, and I got to rewatch this movie. Do you like movies at all?
Yeah, I'm a big movie person.
Do you remember? Actually, when I'm watching right now, I'm watching the Sergio Leone, Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns.
Yeah, yeah, I love
Uh,
Leone.
Matt Bracken got me onto that. I just saw F1 in the theater last week, which he told me to watch Ford versus Ferrari before I saw F1, so I watched both of them. Which you haven't seen
Right.
F1, go see it in the theater because it's awesome.
I saw Ford versus Ferrari, which was great, but F1's really good.
Go see it in the theater. It's awesome. Just to hear the sound of the cars, and it was probably one of the best movies I've seen in 4 or 5 years in a movie theater.
Wow.
Go see it.
Okay.
It's great. It's just
I
entertaining.
will.
But I was thinking about the movie Quiz Show. Do you remember the movie Quiz Show?
Yeah, the where it was like $64,000 question and someone was cheating.
He got
Had the
the
question.
answer. He got the answers because he was Ralph Fiennes was the lead, and he was this very handsome man, and he fit the profile. He was the son of a famous professor or something, and so they gave him the answer. And there's a scene where Scorsese did a cameo, and he was representative of I think the network. I think that was his character. And
Right,
the government official that was interviewing him, because the government official wanted to go after the networks
right,
and Big Pharma. I believe Big
right,
Pharma was the one that sponsored the show. And
right.
Martin Scorsese said, "Yeah, no, network's not going to go anyway." He's like the president of NBC. They'll just move him into a different position. They're not going to go away. So what do? They scapegoated it on Ralph. They scapegoated on Ralph Fiennes'
Yeah.
character, and network television, Big Pharma didn't go anywhere. And that's where, like, I feel like where this is all heading. Not even where it's all heading, but you see that in that. I saw that in the movie. I was like, oh my god, like this movie came out like 30 years ago, and it took place during the 50s or 60s.
Right.
It was happening then of just putting you into silos.
The scapegoat concept, every industry, it's like, okay, we can't afford to have this be, like for example, same idea, gold. JP Morgan and a couple other banks were just completely manipulating the shit out of gold. And the initial charges were RICO, which means you go up the chain to the top. That means the CEO is liable. Like, you're saying it's not isolated. They got RICO dropped, and they got three guys, and they said these three guys did it. Take the fall, and that's it. That's what they do. Because you can't look. I'm the CEO. You can't take me down. You jeopardize the system. You know, you can't take down Big Pharma or the CEO of NBC. You jeopardize the system.
Where can people find you, Vince?
Um, VBL Goldfix, Victor Boy Larry Goldfix on Substack, Goldfix. And you can find me on Twitter at Soren, Soren, the K. Basically, it's VBL's Ghost. That's my name. Just look for VBL's Ghost. If you type that in, you'll find it. But that's it. We do a lot of economics and precious metals and geopolitics, a lot of crypto today. And we send a lot of really, really good content out if you're a person who's looking for analysis and insights into the markets.
And I encourage everybody to go to Vince's Substack, support him, support the work that he's doing. And, I thank you for coming on, chatting with me, and we'll follow this along and see where it goes.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciated it.
Mic drop.